Malcolm Nance, Malcolm Nance, Malcolm Nance. Good morning.
Good morning, Steffi. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Christmas. Kwanzaa.
Yes, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa to you, sir. Give us some good news before what's the haps before we go on vacation. Obviously, there've been all these rumors. He's going to fire Mueller today. He's going to fire him if he indicts Kushner or Don Jr. What are you hearing?
Well, I heard what you heard, which was Representative Jackie Spears last week say that the rumor on Capitol Hill is that he would make some sort of move to remove Mueller, but there's no evidence of that right now. The only thing that he can do at this point is go down and fire the Deputy Attorney General, Rob Rosenstein, and then he would be in a multi-week hunt to appoint someone that would actually fire Mueller. So I think Mueller's safe for now. I think that the strategy has been to shift to the Republican Party and make them do the dirty work to essentially Benghazi Mueller and try to make his name as into mud, so to speak.
Can you believe some of this stuff and how over the top they're going? What was the thing we played yesterday? Janine Pirro saying not only do they need to be investigated at the FBI, some people need to be taken out in handcuffs. I mean, they're trying to. Yeah.
Wasn't her husband arrested and imprisoned for fraud? Okay.
Yes.
I guess she knows what that's like.
I read one tweet. Here's why the GOP is calling for McCabes' head and trying to play him up as a Clinton shill. He backed up Comey's account of the Trump meetings. I mean, this is, I have to say, shocking, even for me, to see how the degree. Rand Paul, what did he tweet? The Obama administration needs to be investigated, for, the FBI colluding to prevent Trump from being elected. I'm like, wait, what? I mean...
what's utterly amazing here is Donald Trump has decided to set the pace for the Republican Party, and the party has quickly folded like a cheap sheet of paper. And they literally are now prepared to align themselves with whatever nefarious activities that Donald Trump has committed, and it was all for the tax cut. And they now are going to get that tax cut, and they have to hold the line now. And as I've been saying for some time, we don't have any evidence that there was treason legally, but rhetorically, the things that are going to come down the pike if Mueller's investigation holds up, people will be using that word, and the Republican Party has signed off on it now. They are now part of the problem.
Right. Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I was saying is I've just never seen a whole party that appears to be acting as his defense counsel, right, and trying to do the best they can to distract.
The word for it, Steffi, that we should start using is Politburo.
Yeah. Which
is the old communist, parliament, which just rubber stamped anything that was said because they were all, part of the same political ideology, and they were essentially just a kangaroo organization. Their job was to pretend like they were a independent party of, party vehicle in the Soviet Union. Now we are seeing that Politburo, Saddam Hussein, People's Council type activity out of the Congress.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that scene yesterday, was right out of North Korea. This day-long praise-a-thon that started in the cabinet meeting and went into the Rose Garden. I've just never seen anything like it.
Yeah, well, you're right. It was certainly bizarre, and I love the treatment they gave to Mike Pence with the "Love Actually."
Yes, yes.
Why?
In my eyes, you are perfect.
That's right. It's just absolutely amazing. Saddam Hussein did something like this in the late 1960s, where he just arbitrarily went around accusing each person in his council of being a spy, and they would be taken up and run out. And then he would go from person to person, and each person would go, "I love you, Saddam," even more ardently than the person next to him.
Aye.
That is what we saw here. It is absolutely bizarre. It's a cult of personality now. And they have decided that no matter what the laws are in the United States, no matter what the history has been in this country with regards to the political power and the Republican Party, they have become a Politburo.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. There's no other way, anything else to call it. What? So I'm trying to think. There's so many. Obviously, we've heard so much speculation. I mean, obviously, people have said that the degree they're going to try to discredit Mueller does seem to say that something big is coming. Don't you think?
Yeah. Well, did you see the tweet that I put out about the Republican congressman the other day, Jason? Who is it? Jason? No.
Chaffetz.
Right.
Yeah.
That he is leading the charge to break up the FBI and say that the entirety of the FBI's investigation is a sham. We have never, even under J. Edgar Hoover, we have never had people speak like this.
Right.
The way that they're talking now about this investigation. We're literally having people who have decided that they are going to obstruct justice no matter what they do.
Malcolm, again, not to be conspiratorial, but because we know that they hacked the RNC as well. I mean, what everybody keeps asking is, do they have something on all these guys? Why are they acting so complicit when America has been attacked?
Well, they've decided that Donald Trump now speaks for them, that they have bought into it, and whatever he does is good. They are terrified of that 33% minority. And everybody I speak to, every political analyst that I know, says that body is the core of the Republican Party, and they understand now that Trump leads those people around by a nose ring. They can turn them into a vicious mob, whether online with one tweet, and they're terrified of it more than they are terrified of the laws of the United States. It's absolutely fascinating how they've decided that they don't not only want to become complicit, that they are really, really comfortable in entering the conspiracy. I mean, Devin Nunes's activities in the House Intelligence Committee, I'm sorry, they are essentially saying that they will obstruct justice by these rumors that he's going to come to the end at the end of this year and carry out no more investigation, interview no more witnesses, and declare it all a sham and Trump clear. That right there is obstruction of justice. Anybody.
Well, right. I mean, having Sarah Sanders from the White House podium call this a Democrat hoax, like the president is, when all of his national intelligence people obviously say the opposite. We are in bizarro world.
We are in bizarro world. It's going to be even more fascinating, and if I can give you some hope, to see what is it going to be like when each of these people are called in for the routine investigatory part of the Mueller inquiry, to just ask them the basic question. Did you or did you not say X for the president? And they're going to have to either lie or tell the truth.
Right.
They're either going to have to further this, the obstruction of justice, or they're going to tell the truth. We know Sean Spicer, who has nothing said against him, right? Sean Spicer has not been indicted. Sean Spicer was called in for very simple inquiries. That guy knows who went through the doors when he was cut out of meetings.
Right.
And he is going to lead them to the people who are the key components to the criminal activity they're investigating. And the question is, Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sorry, you got me saying Huckleberry.
Sorry.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders is also going to be a person who's going to be called in as a witness. And she will have to determine whether she's going to keep that sham up when called in.
Wow. I imagine she's going to have several more kids just that day so that she will not be subjected to bad. Because, it's always her kid's birthday, so you can't ask her hard questions. Or she has just baked a pie, so you can't ask hard questions. Malcolm, what about the Jill Stein piece we were just talking about? Obviously, she's just been drawn in. We were just talking about, because you talk a lot about unwitting agents, useful idiots. What is your take on that?
Well, I mentioned the table, and as a matter of fact, in the sequel to The Plot to Hack America, which I cannot tell you the new title, I think I might have said it before, I have an entire section of a chapter called the dinner table.
Yeah.
And it's about everyone who was at the table with Vladimir Putin. Not just Michael Flynn, not just Jill Stein, interestingly enough, Julian Assange's father was at that table.
Missed that one.
All of
okay.
the characters were at that table. Jill Sanders, I'm sorry, what you've done to me has confused me horribly. Jill Stein is a fellow traveler. There are different types of persons that can be brought into an intelligence operation. You have witting assets, people who know that they are being recruited but will not have a direct role. They can have an indirect role. Unwitting assets, people who are recruited and brought in, and they don't know they're being played. Agents, who are people who sign contracts and will be paid and are brought in to do that. Then you have the person whose philosophy goes along with the person who is carrying out a nefarious act. They are called fellow travelers. The Soviet Union used to use the Communist Party of the United States and the extreme parts of the Green Party for a very long time as fellow travelers. Interestingly enough, Jill Stein's philosophy, if you read some of the things that she said, well, she supported the election of Donald Trump indirectly because she believed that the government would be so badly damaged that the Democratic Party would break up and then the Green Party would rise to ascendance in the ashes. The only thing.
Well, as you always tell us, Malcolm, that's what the Russians do. They play on either people for ego, for money, for whatever it is. They're
money, ideology, corruption, coercion, or ego. MICE, M-I-C-E.
Right, and also as we were talking about, I don't think that enough has been talked about. Clint Watts' testimony. Talking about the Russians helped Bernie during the primary by specifically planting negative stories about Hillary and positive stories about Bernie. So I think that
Well, you can't blame Bernie Sanders for that.
No. But that's my point. Is this was a very sophisticated effort, and then to throw in a fringe left candidate after you've already tried to divide the Bernie and Hillary Democrats, right? Seems pretty.
It just shows you the depth. This is a multi-year operation, where entire components of Russian intelligence and the Russian political warfare machinery were put into place to engineer an outcome on this election.
Well, and Malcolm, I think my point is I think we're going to talk more and more when this whole thing comes out about how early this started, as you have, that they helped Trump in his primary. They, you know what I mean? They helped. They obviously wanted Bernie to be the candidate because they thought, like most people, that he was not as strong a candidate in the general as Hillary. This was custom tailored to elect Donald Trump.
Right, and if you look at the hit jobs that they did with that political propaganda for Bernie Sanders, that's what we call intelligence preparation of the battlefield, where what you do is you are laying down the groundwork for your decisive strike. The decisive strike came on July 25th, 2016, the morning of the DNC, the first day of the convention, where all weekend WikiLeaks had been dumping out the story that Hillary Clinton and the Democratic Party had been trying to steal the election from Bernie Sanders and had stolen it, and the Democratic Party was in the, with Debbie Wasserman Schultz, was in the pocket of Hillary Clinton, and that the entire thing had been done. All of that had been prepared, not just with the Bernie camp, but with the Russians supporting that contention for months. Then their hit was the release of all those WikiLeaks emails, and their expected goal, as I wrote in Plot to Hack America, was to break the Democratic Party in two that morning.
Yep.
And I watched it live from, I was in Independence Hall watching the Bernie protests, how they all went out and went to the press tent and protested Hillary Clinton and the people on the outside. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party didn't split into two. It split into three because it pushed many people into the Jill Stein camp. And that, of course, gave Donald Trump the critical 77,000 votes to make him win. And all, those people, the Bernie people, unwitting assets, had nothing to do with it. They just got played within their own ideology. The Jill Stein people are fellow travelers.
Yep.
They knew that this would be the effect. They campaigned on it. And the funny part was, the week before the election, the Green Party of Russia came out and told the Green Party of the USA explicitly that they were being played by Putin and do not vote against Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
The rest is history.
Yep. By the way, and a couple of tweets of yours. Here we are now. Before we break for the year, you said his national security speech was ignorant of history, insulted all presidents since FDR, praised Putin and Russia, removed spreading democracy as a U.S. policy, and equated values to making money, contradicting the actual strategy document. Hashtag dumpster fire. Cut to yesterday, were repudiated by a lot of our allies at the UN. And then your final tweet regarding North Korea. This is insanity. Any U.S. strike starts the Second Korean War. This is Iraq 2.0 with nukes, real chemicals, and viable biological weapons. Add millions of rounds of artillery equals crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy town. I mean, this year, I'm starting to agree. The rapture has occurred, and Zoe and Prince were the only ones who made the cut.
They are the only ones that made it.
We are now the left behind who have to deal with this dumpster fire of a presidency. It's only going to get worse. The things that were said, I mean, if you look at Nikki Haley's speech, I don't know if you guys talked about that. I was on radio this morning. Nikki Haley's speech was a mafia consigliere.
Thank you.
Threatening people what's going to happen if they don't toe the line.
Yeah.
To the mafia boss. We have literally stepped away from the top role as a democracy in the world, and we are now the number 3 superpower in the world. We have abdicated all responsibility, respect, and authority. And mark my words, within the next year, I suspect Donald Trump will start pushing that crazy extremist idea that had been out there from a Tom Clancy novel to remove the United Nations from the New York City.
Just what Vladimir Putin would like. Yeah, it was like she was like Trump's mini-me. It was like a little mob, toddler tantrum. We were going to put our embassy in Jerusalem anyway.
It was a non-binding resolution, and we went along with Guatemala, Honduras, Micronesia, Nauru, and Israel, to against the remainder of the world, all of our allies, and then the threat to cut humanitarian aid, food aid, all other assistance to the rest of the world is insane. This is This is Nikita Khrushchev type stuff. The United States has now abdicated its role. I'm embarrassed that these people, they don't represent me. I'm sorry. These people are literally running the government like a mafia organization, and they are doing the bidding of Vladimir Putin. The co-option is successful.
All right. Merry Christmas, Malcolm. We're out of time.
You're welcome. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa to you. You've been one of the bright lights of 2017, my friend. With you in the fight, I'm ready to go into 2018. Dive into the fray.
Thanks for not giving up.
Yeah.
You're welcome. And thank all of you guys out there for listening to Steffi, the voice of the resistance, and keep informed.
Thank you, honey. All right. See you next year. There he goes, Malcolm.